Hello everyone. So today I'm going to walk you through my process of making a couple different fermented teas. The first one that I'm going to be sharing with you is ashwagandha fermented tea. Ashwagandha is an adaptogen, and adaptogens help our body to adapt to the many different stressors that can come against it. So therefore it supports healthy immune system and hormonal balance, among other things. Adaptogens are also not caffeinated, so if you are of the group that likes to take your probiotics before you go to bed because of stomach acid issues and whatnot, then this would be a good choice because you can get in a good probiotic without having to worry about the caffeine that comes with other fermented teas that are out there. And then the second one that I'm going to be sharing with you is June. So kombucha is a fermented black tea with cane sugar, and June is like its sister. It is green tea as opposed to black tea, and honey as opposed to sugar. All right, so what I do is, and I kind of already set these guys up and let them steep and whatnot for the sake of time in the video. So the ashwagandha is pretty much already done, ready for me to put a cap on it. But what I'll do is I'll steep the tea first with boiling water, and I only fill it up about maybe a third of the way. And I do that because before I can add the starter in, I have to make sure that the tea is at least room temperature or cooler. That way I don't kill the starter, because heat will kill the starter, or a certain high enough temperature will kill it. So so I only fill it up this way. That way when it's done steeping, I can fill it up the rest of the way, which is as the ashwagandha tea is shown here. So anyway, let it steep. When it's done steeping, I let it fill up, and then I normally will at that point in time put the honey in, and I put about a heaping tablespoon's worth, so about that much worth. So a couple things about that. One is I use the honey. I like honey instead. I was using honey with my black tea kombuchas before I knew there was such thing as June, and I used honey because of the properties that are sitting in honey. It's actually, it's a healthier, definitely a healthy sugar if there is such a thing. So I use that, and I wait until I have let it get to room temperature or cooler, as in it's already filled up this high before I throw the honey in. That way I don't let the boiling hot water, or I don't allow the boiling hot water to cook the good stuff out of the honey. So anyway, fill it up to about here. Like I said, put the honey in, mix it around. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say about the honey, or about sugar in general, is as you can see, only use a small amount of sugar in there. That means that it's not going to need as long to ferment. So for me, a week, it's 5 to 7 days actually is about where I ferment mine. Now, if you like yours to be slightly sweeter, then yours will probably, then you could be done in 2-3 days, depending on your taste. Now, I like to let pretty much all my sugar ferment out, so I go as 5 to 7 days. That being said, that little amount of honey also means that if you go too long, you can make vinegar, and you'll know because it'll just taste nasty. So, and if you want to use more sugar, then you should also be aware that, if you don't already know this, that the more sugar you use, the more of an ability you're giving your ferment to have some sort of measurable alcohol content. Like this kombucha is considered to be alcoholic. Now, this measurement says that it's less than 4%. So it doesn't have an exact measurement in it. It just says it's not more than 4%. But anyway, you can create something that's a little bit alcoholic if you use a ton of sugar and if you let it go a long time. So anyway, just to make sure that that's out there. Okay, so that being said, back to this stage. All right, so everything's in here, honey's in here, it's filled up, it's already cooled down. After that point, then I'll go ahead and add the starter in. Now, I am using a store-bought kombucha. But you will notice, and I said it earlier, this is the alcoholic kind, and I purchased the alcoholic kind because the clear glass bottles now no longer, as far as the ones that I've seen, no longer use cane sugar to ferment. The ones that I've seen use kiwi juice. Now, my assumption, this is strictly my assumption, is that because the cane sugar allows for a stronger ferment, GT is realizing that people are able to buy their product and make their own scobies out of it, and therefore they're losing business. So it was a smart business. If my assumption is correct, it was smart for them in the business aspect. However, for those of us that just don't want to buy a SCOBY, we figured it out. So, and figuring out means you just got to get the alcoholic kind. And it will still create, it won't create as big of a SCOBY as quickly as the old stuff used to, but it will still create one. And quite honestly, the old stuff used to work so well that I would just have to, every single time that I took that SCOBY out, I had to rip that thing apart. I was giving it away and throwing it away. This works perfectly fine. I've used it several times and tested it. Works perfectly fine. Never got sick. So it had good probiotics or good bacteria in my ferments and not bad. And I was able to reuse a little bit left over like you normally do whenever you're fermenting. Make another batch off of your old stuff and continue with it. So it does work. So anyway, you just add a little bit into it. And very little bit. Now, if you're concerned about the alcohol content, don't worry, because we're not drinking this whole thing. We're not adding this whole thing. We're only adding maybe a tablespoon. So you just put a little bit in there. That's about it. And then you put a lid on it. And let me explain to you the lid. So a lot of people, or I've known some people that use cheesecloth on their kombuchas. Now, if you listen to my sauerkraut video, you'll remember that I explained that allows for the gas to freely pass out of the ferment. I like to use the gas for the ferment. I also like to use the gas in the case of for the ferment when I'm doing sauerkraut and that type foods. But for drinks, I like to use the I like to use the gas because that gives me carbonation. So if you are finding that you have created your own kombucha, but you're still buying store kombucha because the store kombucha is carbonated and you can't get yours carbonated, then put a lid on it. And for safety, like I explained in my last ferment video, you only want to fill it up about 3/4 full. If you fill this thing all the way up here and you put a lid on it, even with just a finger tight, you have the possibility of creating so much pressure in there that you can, this glass is going to find a way to allow that gas to escape. So, so you want to just keep it to where there's a good enough amount of pressure in there to give you a carbonation, but not too full to where you cannot, to where you're basically gonna have to worry about either burping it. You don't want to have to burp it because burping it will release your carbonation, kind of like you open up a soda. Once it's open, you got to drink it because it's just going to go flat. So same thing with your kombucha. Once you open that thing up to burp it, you better be prepared to drink it, or it's going to go flat a little bit. So 3/4 full is a safe amount, safe amount there to make sure that you don't have an explosion, but yet still have some carbonation. And then when you're done with this thing, then you just save the reserve, or when it's time for you to drink it, you save the reserve, throw it into your next batch, and it'll continue on. All right, goodbye for now.